Hi everyone, how's it going? This is Fox Millinder. This is my concept paper presentation for the concept analysis essay. Uh, the topic is active assailants and active shooters and how it's changed EMS operating under fire. Um, Over the last 20 years, the way that an active shooter comes into a building and performs their attack has greatly changed. And this has made law enforcement officials and EMS agencies change the way they respond to these events. And that's what I plan on writing about. My paper will have three main topics. The biggest one is the introduction and transition of Rescue Task Force EMS. This will include military-type SWAT teams, tactical casualty care EMS, and military-style trauma medicine, as well as EMS operating in the warm zone. Secondly, my paper will compare previous mass shooting events to present-day events. And then lastly, it will show the changes in protective equipment compared to present day and triage methods because of the way that people are being injured in these attacks. One of the biggest topics in the first responder world right now is bringing EMS in under cover of law enforcement. Quote that I found in my research: the Rescue Task Force provides point of wound care to victims where there's an ongoing threat. These teams treat, stabilize, and remove the injured in a speedy fashion under the protection of armed law enforcement. And that's what this picture is showing. It's two firefighter paramedics under the cover of law enforcement officials that they're extracting, appears to be a dummy, but they're extracting an injured person in the quote-unquote warm zone. This means there's still a threat present. Secondly, moving into the warm zone, every major incident has a cold, warm, and hot zone declared to it. And this quote here states, historically, EMS providers staged a safe distance away until police methodically secured the scene before permitting EMS to access victims. This practice is being phased out and replaced by the Rescue Task Force, a more patient-centric and life-saving approach. So this picture is split. It has a left side and a right side, obviously. Left side shows the old methods where the firefighters and medics would stay in the cold zone. Police would go in and neutralize the threat, and then they'd move up and start caring for people. The newer style tactics, medics go into the warm zone with police, even if the shooter has not been contained and there's still a threat. This is a paramilitary style approach. There's protection, and they're moving in while there's still a threat, and they're trying to extract people that are injured. And then lastly, the time to initial contact. The report by CNN, Columbine was the first true wake-up to understanding active shooter events, especially for the academic setting. Columbine took SWAT teams 47 minutes to enter and work on neutralizing the threat. 2012, out of 35 active shooter events, there was an average of 5-minute time frame of point of entry to reducing the threat. This has drastically decreased time over the last few years, and ultimately it's saving lives and limiting the amount of injury and death to a very small number compared to what it used to be. And then moving forward, continuing in my research, I'm trying to find more documentation policy changes on old versus new policies. Found the newer policy. One of the most relevant one is NFPA 3000. So the National Fire Protection Agency policy. It's a general doctrine and guideline to responding to these events. I'm trying to find older documentation on how individuals were told to handle these events. That's what I'm still looking for. And then just a muddy point, my first topic, I was actually looking at doing the Boston Marathon bombing events, but I couldn't find enough direct and precise information to write a paper about. So I changed to this topic. And actually with this topic, there's so much information because this is a relatively hot topic for first responders that I'm trying to hone in on a few direct points to write a rather clear and concise paper. Other than that, there's just the references that I use for this presentation. Wish everyone luck on their papers, and about it.